Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Season 2 of So Tell Me with Phil Bhojwanay, the show where questions about society and utter stupidity are based on my mood for the day. My guest today is Levinson. Irv is a lawyer by profession, but as of the last few years, can be seen pursuing his passion for performing. Welcome to the show, Irv. How are you?
I'm good, Phil. Glad to be with you.
Yep. Now it's for the 2 or 3 people that watch the show or listen to the show. Tell them how you and I met, because you're into storytelling. So I'll leave it. You're the master at that. Whilst I'm good, you're better. So I'll leave you to tell the story. Can you just tell everyone on the show how we met?
You and I met in a storytelling class at Second City, and we became instantly hostile to each other. But after about 2 or 3 weeks, I thought this guy's pretty good, and you seemed to think I was pretty good. We started going for coffee and drinks and just shooting the breeze.
Correct.
And by some miracle, we became friends.
Absolutely. And now, unbeknownst to me, I thought that the storytelling class was not going to be literally telling a story. I thought it was about creating and faking a story. And turns out it was actually telling stuff about real life and whatnot. And we shared a couple of things. And anyway, we became friends from there. And now you seem to have, in the last, that was 3 years ago. In the last 3 years, you've been performing at Second City and going and doing actual proper shows about this, haven't you?
I've been performing every place I can perform. And a lot of it's been storytelling. Some of it's been more traditional genres like drama, plays, comedy, even stand-up comedy, but storytelling, because of the truthful element to it, that it's your own personal story, is one of my favorites. And it's something that just flowed naturally from being a lawyer, where I don't claim that all my stories were truthful, but they aimed at the truth. And now I do try and be truthful in everything I say.
Right. So, I'm surprised. Sorry, the images are blurring, but we'll edit that out. Doesn't matter. With the storytelling, it seems to have had a domino effect with everything that you've been doing thus far. There was I think recently when we last spoke, you mentioned that you had a Second City and you put up a show called a 2-person show called Juicy Can, yeah, which Juicy Can I think it was called.
Juicy, yeah.
Go on. Yep. Tell us about that a little bit.
Juicy Can Diversity Uncorked. So the idea on this show was you got an old guy who's a lawyer, and he's white and he's Jewish and he's got all kinds of personality characteristics, and playing opposite me is this young, intelligent, beautiful, captivating Mexican-American woman, Jessie Rielzola.
Right.
And we tell our lives. I tell about my meeting my wife. She tells about meeting her husband. We tell about our religious backgrounds, such as it is. Lots of different things that encompassed as well a lot of music, including, believe it or not, some dancing, some singing, a musical director, a theatrical director. So it was a ton of fun.
And these were actual shows that you had to pay for, yeah?
People actually paid money. We actually, about 3 weeks after the show, we met for some wine and divvied up what was left over after Second City took their bit.
So what'd you end up with? A couple of bucks?
It was good. It was almost like being a lawyer again.
I'm gonna touch on that very, very soon. But how much did you end up with a couple of bucks after Second City must have come in the picture? You ended up with $3 or $4 each?
$3 or $4. You know, I will give you the exact amount when Donald Trump discloses his income tax returns.
Wow! Now,
but,
for the first time, he's actually made a really good joke.
I told my wife to start planning for a life change, lifestyle change.
All right. See, I didn't want to bring up Donald Trump, but since you mentioned his name, now I know that you have a lot of disgust towards the man. What is your take on him? How are things in America with him at the moment in the White House?
it's tough, and I won't use the word disgust, which you used. It's very chaotic right now and very confusing. For example, in our Juicy Can, which was a take on American Jew and Mexican American, the two cultures involved in the piece. There's the wall.
Yep.
So what's the wall supposed to do? It's supposed to keep Mexicans out, in part, and they're supposed to pay for it. And we don't have to go there. People know how many Americans feel about the man who has accidentally become their president, and we can leave it at that for now. But I always try and look at the bright side, and the bright side is there's elections 2 years and 4 years from now, and there's a lot of people working for positive change in that time. Meantime, he's great for the comedians, I will say that.
It's good for fodder. He's good for fodder, isn't he? But all right, if you don't want to get in Trump, we'll segue from that a little bit to poetry and motion and music. What's happening on that end with you over there? You seem to be doing you're not only are you a triple threat, you're a quadruple threat now. You sing, you act, you dance, you do poetry. What else have you been doing?
And it's all by this crazy plan of mine. My crazy plan is you live life for 60 years or more, and you do what you think is the right thing. And then you grow up. So by the time you're 60, you can do what you really want to do. So what do I really effing want to do? I go out there and I'm writing poems and I'm dancing and I'm singing and performing in plays. I'm not claiming to be good at any of it, although some of my stories are pretty good.
So you have a zest for life.
But I am enjoying it, and I am exercising a degree of creativity and truthfulness that is refreshing to me personally.
So so in this year, are you gonna be? Is this your 70th year of living this year?
I've been doing this for about 7 years. I've taken hundreds and hundreds of hours of classes.
Yeah.
They've been everything from piano to voice to storytelling to dramatic improv, comedic improv, and solo performance, which is something that I've sort of gone into since we took our class together 3 years ago. Instead of telling a story, I like to perform it. So if I'm talking to whoever, a friend or my mother or a stranger who yells at me, I like to play both parts. Makes it more interesting, more fun. So that's kind of it. I'm reinventing myself about every 3 weeks, throwing out the older, going for something new, and just having as much fun as I can.
You don't get any nerves going on, do you? Everything seems to be second nature for you for this. Is it because of the whole history with your profession of being a lawyer and getting up in court and on the podium and sort of saying, oh, look, this is what I have to do, and it all stems from that, do you think?
There is that similarity. Lawyers, trial lawyers, which is what I was, trial lawyers are on stage, they're performing. As Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage and all men and women play several different parts during their life. Yeah. And it seems like I'm going on my 31st or 32nd part right now because I keep trying new things, which, has some disadvantages. You don't focus on one thing too long. You keep moving on. People have asked me how I got into this. Did you have this great interest in performance or acting? And I turned to the truth, which is for 40 years I didn't think twice about it. But when I was a 17-year-old boy, I took my senior prom date Everyone else took their senior prom date home to try and make out with them in the basement.
Yep.
I took mine to Second City, which was, this theatrical venue in Chicago, which at the time was only 3 years old.
Which was the best time.
I don't know how the date went. I remember who it was, and I remember what I thought about her, but I don't think we did too much other than laughed our heads off at Second City. And approximately 45 years later, I began going back to that. And it wasn't just Second City. There's a number of venues in Chicago that I've taken classes at. There's a place, Chicago Dramatists. I won't bore you with the others, but there's a wide variety, and they all have their different slant on things.
And
what about you?
What about me? Well, I'm the host, so I get to ask the questions, Irv.
I know, but I'm old enough to watch Johnny Carson, and his guests always got to ask questions.
Well, I'm a big fan of Johnny Carson. What do you want to know about me? From me? Tell me. I'll answer.
At the very least, I'd like the ability to come out on stage with a cobra snake and wrap him around your neck or something. Get even with you for this experience.
Even? I mean, this is me doing you a favor. No, actually, this is not doing you any favors. This show is, if anything, is going to probably make everything worse for your life. No, but what do you want to know about me? Tell me.
Okay, so let me say this. You asked me to talk about how we met. And
yes.
I told the bare bones how we met.
Yep.
The honest part is when we met, I realized how different you and I were in so many ways, probably the biggest way being personality differences.
Absolutely.
But also looks. And
he's saying he's better looking. That's what he's saying.
And age, of course, is a huge thing. And so, I wasn't kidding. Within the first 2 weeks, I was calling you a young whippersnapper.
I remember.
You were calling me an old fogey, and we went at it pretty good. But somehow we became friends. Good friends.
Good friends, because it was not malicious. So
my question is, what did it for you? I mean, what interest do you have in an old FART, who's
I'll tell you,
afraid to even say a dirty word? He spells it instead of saying it.
Well, I'll tell you something. 3 years ago, I was I had just turned 30 when I was in Chicago. I think I am still young. I was young back then, and back then I guess I was overly aggressive with a lot of the comedy that I did was very unrefined at points, but it was never malicious, and I think that's what you understood. It was just me being, like you said, a whippersnapper, very quick on the uptake, and saying things as I saw them, and just I like to wind people up a little bit just to see where I'm at with them, because if you can handle me at my worst, then I know we can be good friends, whatever the case may be. And so I literally, if you want to know the truth, was I wanted to size up everyone in the room with my style of doing things, and if you get along with me, I knew we'd be friends, and that's how we became friends, was because I think deep down inside, I'm not malicious. I say things in good fun. They may come across differently, but I don't mean what I say. So I do remember in the first week or the second week, you from judging from your face, and my intuition said, at times I might be annoying this old man, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's what it was. It was, in fact, a couple of other people in the class became friends of mine, one or two others at least. Above all, it was just the fact that I appreciated that people like you, at the end of the day, knew that there was no malice to what I said, and that's why I think we became friends. And 3 years on, here you are on a show that's skyrocketing, big time in Australia, #1 in the ratings, and we're doing so well. And Alex is sitting over there playing with his phone, and that's my co-producer who can't be fucked with the show. But anyway, yes, that's my story with you, at least.
So I want to add to that something. Sincere,
sure,
if it's okay.
Of course.
Part of it for me, the initial part of it was just the diversity. Kind of like the 2-person show I did, you and I, where we'd go out for coffee or drinks, and you were over here and I was here, and we were exchanging ideas, never knew what would come out of you. But I also think what I saw is kind of, the a-hole who has a big heart. You like to hide it, and you like to say people think I'm malicious, but I think I saw a genuine guy who cared about people, and part of that caring meant that he had to ridicule them and make fun of them and so on, but we understood each other. So I think there's something kind of neat there.
Thank you.
And here we are, thousands and thousands of miles apart. I've been in Australia many times on legal affairs,
I was going to ask.
Strangely enough.
Yep.
But here we are facing each other, and you doing your thing, and I'm off doing 72 other things.
I'm so glad that you're doing very, very well. Just to segue back a little bit, you mentioned that you were in Australia, 15, 20 years ago, working with a couple of barristers over here. That's a bit of a story over there, isn't it?
It was a fascinating story. It was a case I won in the United States, and it involved a big business revolving around surgical staples, which was a new method of closing wounds instead of sewing them up, suturing them. There was the giant staple, and there were allegations, and an Australian company, American company got involved. I sued them in the U.S. They sued us in Australia. We tried the cases both places. I did not get to wear the white barrister's wig, but I worked day and night with solicitors and barristers in Australia. And just the one little thing I'll tell you about, it was a trade secret case, so it was very confidential, and I can't go into it any more than I have.
Sure, yeah.
When I would walk out of the courtroom, because it's an Australian culture, I had to sort of walk backwards. I wasn't allowed to turn my back on his lordship, the judge. And I get to the door, and they take out this big lock and open the door so I could leave. And then I turned to the judge, I bowed and walked out. It was really kind of cool.
Sounds almost Japanese.
And then a few years later, I had another case I won't go into again, but I was representing the U.S. Olympic Committee in the Sydney Olympics, and that was as hard fought as any case I ever was involved in, and it went to the U.S. Supreme Court on a writ of cert, and the Supreme Court denied that, and I put my file away, and 5 days later, one of the participants in the dispute opened up a lawsuit in Sydney, Australia, to try and affect the team membership in the Sydney Olympics. So the case just kept going and going and going, and it was pretty interesting. Before leaving Australia, I made it to Bondi Beach.
Did you? Did you
like it? The world's paradise of family beaches, male beaches, female beaches, hetero beaches. It was like you just walk between the mountain cliffs and enjoy nature.
Speaking of nature, you're in Phoenix, Arizona at the moment, aren't you? On a holiday.
I am in Phoenix on a holiday, but
yeah.
I'm going to tell a story here too.
Well, that's what it's been. It's been multiple stories.
Still all over the place. Phoenix. I'm working on a solo show. The last one was two people, a 2-person show.
Right.
And the director I'm working with is in Toronto, Canada. So I'm like north, south, below the equator, all over the place. And I think it's time for me to just lay down and go to sleep for about 48 hours or something.
Well, welcome to my life where all the I'm in 4 different countries every 3 months, so it's a horrible feeling. My body can't recognize what's going on.
And then keeping up with you is like it really makes my head spin. You know, Sydney, Singapore, Vietnam, New York, Chicago. You're all over the place, man.
If I was in Chicago, you would have received a call from me. Or if I was in New York, I was not in Chicago. But if I ever am again, you know you will get a phone call from me. That much you can be sure of.
You have lived in Chicago on at least 2 occasions that I know of.
I lived in Chicago for 2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
2 years I was there. And there was 2 years of some of the best years of my miserable life. I do miss Chicago. It's a lovely city. I think it's one of the best, for me at least, one of the top 3 cities in the States altogether. I love Chicago. But Chicago aside, with Chicago in the picture, actually, all your families over there now. You are what? You become a grandfather again, have you, recently?
I am a grandfather, soon to be 5 times removed, meaning I've got two grandsons, 2 granddaughters, and a granddaughter on the way. So
wow.
I have 5, and they range from yet to be born to 8 years old.
Now, how much how joyful must that be for you? Yeah, I mean, things are good.
They're a total blast, and they're totally different. You know, they're like you and me. They're like one's out of this can, the other's out of that can, and they're a lot of fun. My 2.5-year-old granddaughter she runs around the house with a mic, singing and dancing.
Does she?
Music from Frozen.
Wow!
The cold doesn't bother me anyway. Only she's got her own steps, and she, her hands go up in the air, and it's a blast. And
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Their parents and their grandmother. My wife, of course, does diapers on the young ones, and I enjoy them.
Over here where for the first time, I'll tell you something, Alex. This is me he's going to call me a bit of an asshole for saying this, but, back 3 years ago when I used to tell stories, I needed coffee to stay awake. Now they're actually interesting. So, I kid you, Irv. Look at your face. I always feel so bad when I bully you.
I was just thinking how low to go in responding to that statement.
Well, I'm sure...
I will just tell you one quick true story.
Sure.
You told a really good story one time. And I said, as a member of the storytelling community, this guy's really good. But when you told it, I now have to get my dig in. You were walking back and forth. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
And like they say, command, have a presence on stage, command it, move strategically, but you're just like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the story was still good. Yeah. And the next time I saw you tell the story, you were much more solid up there. So we all learn.
We do. I do remember that. I'm surprised that you remember it as well. I definitely remember that because, but in a game of storytelling, I think you've definitely taken the cake. So I think perhaps you might have just started a new trend altogether, Irv. I mean, I've seen stuff on Facebook that you've posted. You seem to have been taking the storytelling community by storm. I mean, you're the guy, you're the go-to guy now for this, aren't you?
I almost never will tell the same story twice.
Yeah.
And so I've probably, to date, over a few years, I've probably got like 93 stories sitting on my computer, and I never read them, or I just kind of outline them on there, and I'm getting sort of further and further out. There's a story I've written that I'm telling soon about me and a pool stick. And I talked to the pool stick. It's a gift that my dad gave me when I was 14 years old. And the whole point of the story
Little did he know that you'd be talking to it.
What?
Little did your father know that you'd be talking to the pool stick at this age. So the transition from senile is perfect.
Pool stick. I earned my way through college with that pool stick. But our conversation was, Irv, you're young, you're insecure. You should be best at something in the world. And I said, what? And next thing I knew, I was in the back of the shop being fit for the perfect pool stick and took lessons from my dad.
Yep.
And you know, I now have a pool table in my basement, have most of my life, and I don't play that often, but if I'm feeling insecure, like I'm screwing up badly, I can always go to the table, knock some balls in the hole, and feel good about myself.
Where was my invitation to play pool then? While we're in Chicago, I never knew this about you.
Are you a player?
Yeah,
I know you're a player. Are you a pool player?
I play pool all the time. I love pool. I mean, I would have we would have had a very good time playing some pool, shooting some balls and whatnot.
I used to play against myself, and like one turn I'd be the White Sox, Chicago White Sox. Next turn I'd be the bad guys, the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
And I couldn't control who would win. The Yankees won as much as the White Sox, but I would do that sort of as a life story. One game I would play very aggressive Irv. And take risky shots, and the guy who'd be playing against me would be very safe, cautious Irv. And I'd see how did I come out better, playing bold or playing cautious.
And what worked out better for you?
I was a better pool player bold. Yep. Because it's like being in a groove, like Michael Jordan hitting a shot. If you start thinking about it and being, but if you're just out there with your stick and you're good, and you know you can. I found I could do much better.
It's the confidence.
And in some respects, I found that in the law too. That I didn't start becoming really more successful until I started taking chances, being more creative, you know, going for the big win instead of playing it safe, which is what most lawyers do.
Yeah.
So that's something just
you went for the jugular, yeah?
By asking guys like me to appear on your terrific show here, so that all three people can enjoy us.
Yeah. Well, with you, I'm sure that you can tell this is another story. So you gotta go for the jugular. But Irv, I tell you something. You look how fast the time has passed with your stories you've done. It's almost 1 o'clock over here. So, but before I leave you, and you know, I don't know how this happened. Maybe it was Providence and whatnot. This is our 20th episode that I'm doing. My 20th episode, at least. Me and Alex together. And this is season 2's finale, and you just happen to be the final guest. How nice is that? How nice a story is that going to be for you to tell?
And I am honored to be the 20th guest of a true, sincere rascal.
Yes,
like
I take that. I'll take that.
Thank you.
No worries, but before I go, I have a staple question that I ask everyone on the show before as my last closing off question. I think you might like this. And the question is, as a society, what were we, what are we now, and what do you see us going into the future?
Deep stuff, Phil.
Well, that's what I do. Tell us a story about that.
Tell us a story. Well, you know, I do tell a story that begins with the Big Bang, when the universe gets created. I don't know if you've heard that story. It's one of the few stories, it morphs into a true story about my life, but it starts out with the Big Bang. So
infuse this together.
Stephen Hawking's, I would tell you that where the world is going is to the Big Bang contracting back, so we become one tight, meaningless ball of energy again. But to be more direct, I think I have to stay optimistic. There are some jerks walking this earth, but there's some really good people, and so I'm optimistic about where we're going. The next 4 years could be pretty tough in the U.S., but we're working. So. All
right, good. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, you seem happy, you look happy, you sound happy. So I'm happy that you're happy. So, but on that note, Irv, I thank you for coming on the show, and it's so nice to talk to you after so long. And stay in touch, my friend.
Enjoy it, and keep doing your thing.
Thanks, Irv. Take care. Talk soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.